I rise today in support of House Bill 5538 that would allow school districts to use design-build contracts in the procurement process. Design-build allows both the design and construction of a project to be procured from a single entity. This is different from the design-bid-build process in which you have different entities, usually your architect and engineer, building on the two different parts of a project, and often pointing fingers at each other on who's to blame when things go wrong. HB 5538 still requires a licensed registered architect as well as a licensed registered engineer on all school projects. But the difference between it means that school districts have a seat at the table. It means that communication is increased. It means that at every turn of a project, when you're about to enter a new phase, everyone can sit down together and decide what is necessary and what is waste. And again, at the end of the day, these are taxpayer dollars. So the design build involves those weekly meetings. And right now, schools are the only public entity in our state that is not allowed to use this process in state law. In fact, our Michigan departments and agencies use and actually promote design-build procurements. Let's look at DTMB. They do all of our capital outlay, maintenance, operational projects. They have an entire page on their website dedicated to design-build concepts. Eagle lists project delivery guidance for our state drinking water and revolving funds, some of the largest dollars that we give to our locals, as an efficient and effective process to use with state grants. But perhaps the largest use with state design-build programs is with MDOT. The I-69 corridor project, 22 miles, $210 million project will be done in a third of the time with one bidding process going out instead of 4. It will replace 6 interchanges, 26 bridges, and the cost savings to taxpayers will be enormous. The other large project MDOT is using, an alternative design-build process, is the I-75 corridor. This goes directly through Oakland County. A $1.3 billion project broken into segments where the director of MDOT actually has a say. At every segment of the project, he can bring his team in and pivot, negotiate, and determine how much we are actually going to bond for or whether we have enough money to directly insert in the project, again, saving taxpayers money. The private sector has been using design-build for over a decade in Michigan. Our cities, counties, and state agencies all use and encourage this exploration of design-build to stretch state and local tax dollars further. So why are the schools not allowed to use design-build in Michigan? Why is there a big push that this is a horrible bill to pass? We all know it. We all have local school districts. And when those school districts go out to the taxpayers, they have traditionally trusted that large firms and a design bid build was the only way to go. But if you live in a community like I do in the UP, and you go out to the public with an absolutely bloated school bond project, we turned ours down with almost 70%. So how many of you, especially those who worked in a public school themselves, like I did, have had a superintendent sweat whether or not a school bond passes? 85% of school budgets are personnel. They are teachers, there are staff, there are bus drivers, cafeteria workers, custodians. And when those school bonds don't pass and you have to replace an expensive project like a roof or a boiler, you better believe there's cuts coming, and they're coming to staff. So if they don't pass it, your only option is to cut. The voters aren't dumb. The community, who is often made up of private contractors, engineers and architects that are contractual and not part of the large firms bidding on school bond projects, are often the ones to point out the bloat and the often great profit margin, giving way to public outcry for the cost to the taxpayers. At least on this side of the aisle, we always decry corporate welfare and supporting the profit margins of private business. My question is, how is this no vote today that some of you may be taking any different? Every other public entity that is responsible for using and requesting more taxpayer dollars is moving to design build. In fact, over the next several years, there will be an increase statewide as well as nationally of almost 15% using design build. Now, the list of opposition to this bill is fascinating to me. You have contractor groups who use design build processes with our cities, our counties, and private industry who are actually opposed to this bill. I don't get it. I went back and I asked, well, how much opposition was there when our state agencies used design build? Well, there wasn't any. Everyone thought it was a great idea. Okay, what about labor? What about our unions? We've been told that some of our unions will be actually cut out if we go to design build. Was there any opposition when we started to do at these MDOT projects? Were our operating engineers concerned about it? No, they still have the work. So this drummed up fear is coming from somewhere, but I can tell you it's from those who stand to lose a huge profit margin at the expense of taxpayers. So let me give you my personal example in the city of Marquette. We had a $22 billion public works project building that we had to pass. We had to get built. And the only money left over after the brownfield project was all done was about $18 million. And as commissioners, we said, there's no way we can do this project. What are we going to do? Or we have to wait another year and see if we can get more revenue in, find some place we can rent for our snowplows and heavy equipment so that people can actually work on them through the winter months. This is horrible. One of the contractors, very respected contractor in the UP, part of one of the construction groups opposed to this bill came back to us and said, we'll do a design build and we will work with you every step of the way so that you can help us decide what to take out. And we did. We didn't take out union labor. We took out, instead of 3 truck wash stations, we had 2. Instead of 3 huge overhead doors, we had 2. We made cuts to the project that really weren't gonna make or break how our public works department operated. So if you're worried about labor unions, we didn't cut one single labor union job when we did our design build. I think if you ask the state departments, you'd find the same thing. So Mr. Speaker, today, my hope is that my colleagues can see through some of what's going on with certain groups losing a considerable amount of money, taxpayer dollars, that I think all of us have a responsibility to be transparent, fair, and objectable with. Thank you.